Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. Today's guest is someone I have known my entire career as a sports photographer. His name is Tim Tessalone. Tim is the longest tenured sports information director in the history of the University of Southern California. Tim recently retired after an incredible 43 years at USC. Over the years, Tim's office publicized an astounding 47 national championships across the board of men's and women's sports, 267 Olympians, 5 Heisman Trophy winners, 12 Rose Bowls that the USC Trojans played in. He and his office have received too many honors to mention, and deservedly so. I met Tim when I was still a student at Art Center College of Design, first as an assistant for some of the great Sports Illustrated photographers, then as a fledgling professional, just trying to build my portfolio by shooting as many different sports as possible. Tim was gracious and generous in those days with granting me credentials to shoot USC football games at the Coliseum and men's and women's basketball games at the Sports Arena. I will always be grateful to Tim for being one of those key people who helped my career take shape. This was really a fun conversation for me, and it covered a wide range of topics. I hope you all enjoy it, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. Well, I want to welcome Tim Tessalone to the Legends of Sport podcast. Tim, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to see Andy. It's we go way back. I was just thinking about that.
Way, I think, like capital way.
Yeah. I think we both kind of cut our teeth together, and grew in this business, and been fun watching you become the icon that you are, and nice to know that I knew you when.
Wow, well, thank you so much. You're too kind, and we do go way back because I remember being a young fledgling photographer, basically begging you for credentials to shoot SC football games or even basketball games. I remember when Cheryl Miller was there, and that was one of my biggest, my first big assignments actually was shooting Cheryl at SC. As a freshman, that incredible team that they had. So much history, man. So Tim, you recently retired as USC's longest tenured sports information director, right? You served 38 years, is that right? Or am I missing a year or two?
Yeah, 38 as the SID and 5 years before that as the assistant. So it's been 43 years at USC. Been a fun run.
What a run. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So tell me, how's retirement going so far? I know it's recent, but how's it going?
Well, my first full day of retirement was Jan 1. So I'm only starting this whole thing off, this new journey off. But, they asked me to kind of stick around in the spring here in kind of a part-time basis and help the office transition, which I was more than happy to do. We've really, I think, built something special in our office, and I want to see it continue that way as they kind of restructure and bring people in. Yeah. Told them I'd be happy to do that. And my first week of retirement last week, I logged it. I'm supposed to work 50% time, and I had 60 hours down. So, it's like, I guess that's what retirement's going to be like. But I'll be around.
60 hours was like a part-time job for you when you were actually employed, right?
Exactly.
That's hilarious. So Tim, on the Legends of Sport podcast, we always like to go back at the beginning to when it all started, and read a lot about your story. I know you grew up in LA, right? Did you grow up a sports fan? Like, did you have a favorite team growing up and all that?
Yeah, it's funny. I've told this story before, but I went to a little Catholic grade school here in Redondo Beach, and high school, Catholic high school, and kind of grew up cheering for Notre Dame. And had some friends that went there, had some family, cousins and whatever that went there. And then I still remember vividly, I did obviously watch USC and UCLA, did the teams in town, but with those couple of those SC Notre Dame classic games that SC prevailed in, I kind of switched over and became a USC fan then. And then as I was in high school and saying, where do I want to go to college? Excuse me. USC became kind of the destination I wanted to go to for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, because of the journalism school and the the kind of people that it was putting out and the education you could get there.
Mm-hmm.
And two, because of the power, I think, of the Trojan family and what going to a school like USC does for people in terms of their future. And I really felt that would set me up well in life. And so, I probably since high school have been a staunch USC, believer, and was just incredibly fortunate to be able to go to school there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you went to SC to study public relations? Was that your goal?
Well, yeah, I actually went as a journalism major. I wanted to be a sports writer.
Okay.
And started off for my first couple of years there as a journalism major. And I remember I was in a class, a journalism class one day, and we had a sports writer come in. I can't remember who it was. And he spoke to the class. And this one thing that he said really stuck with me. And he said that, young sports writers just become old sports writers. Now, that was back in the day. It's not true anymore. But when he said that, I said, well, gosh, that's not a very good upside, So I started thinking, what else could I do that I wanted to stay in sports? And I was at the time also taking a kind of an introductory PR class with a professor named Bill Faith, who was very inspiring. The class was really cool. And I said, hey, this gives me an opportunity to do maybe work in the world of sports, continue maybe my passion with journalism and writing, but do it from a different side of the fence, if you will. And so I switched majors and became a PR major and graduated there in 77, worked in the sports info office as an intern my senior year, and kind of things blossomed from there.
Yeah. So how did it come up that you actually got the job as SID or assistant SID?
Well, my senior year, as I said, I worked in the sports info office. At that time, it was just a real small office. Jim Perry, the great Jim Perry, was the SID at the time. And he took me on and actually gave me some good responsibilities in terms of handling some sports. I remember I was the baseball and the swimming SID as a student. And just kind of really enjoyed that. And then when I graduated, when I was graduating in the spring of 77, they were they were going to expand the office and add a position. And Jim came to me and said, would you like to take this on job full time? And, I kind of said, you know what? I turned it down. I said, I want to go out in the real world, wear a coat and tie and see what that life is like. I had nothing lined up. So, I did that maybe foolishly. And I sat on the beach for a couple of months without a job, not kind of knowing what I was going to do. And then Bill Faith, my professor, my PR professor, called me one day and said, hey, they're interviewing at this PR agency in town for a kind of a junior account executive. Is it something you'd be interested in? I went over, interviewed there, and got the job. Agency PR was really not on my radar at the time. Really not something that I thought I would ever want to get into. But I went to this agency in downtown LA, worked there for 2 years in a kind of a junior role. And it turned out to be a kind of a blessing because it gave me a great foundation in the business of PR and seeing all sides of it. We had all sorts of accounts. We had paint companies and restaurants and financial firms, but we also had the Motion Picture Academy, which was the academy, the Oscars and the Student Film Awards. And I was working on those. And we also had the Pasadena Tournament of Roses, which was the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl football game. And so I was able to keep my hand a little bit in the world of sports that way. And that's what kind of told me, hey, your heart really lies in the day-to-day sports world. And so when the position that I turned down in 77 reopened up in 79, I went to Jim and jumped on it, and he hired me back, and
Yeah.
I've been there ever since.
Yeah.
So I
That's
don't know.
that's a great journey. I mean, I'm thinking to myself as you're talking that it's kind of similar to what I did because I had a passion for sports. I always tell the story. I was the shortest kid on my block in Brooklyn, so I knew I'd never play sports in any way, varsity, in college, whatever. But I love sports. I love photography. I married the two together, kind of like what you did. And then I sort of got my feet wet uh, being an assistant in a studio, which really wasn't what I wanted to do when I was at Art Center. But I learned the business, just like you learned PR. I learned how to deal with people, how to work on a deadline, all the things you need to know to actually be a working photographer. And then, I guess I got lucky, kind of like you did when the '83 All-Star game was at the Forum, and I just graduated, a little earlier than that. And somebody said, "Oh, why don't you go after that?" And, the rest is history. So, and you remember, I used to assist for the great Sports Illustrated
Yeah.
photographers, Peter Reed Miller and Richard Max and Andy Haight, all those guys schlepping equipment around the Coliseum or the sports arena, doing your games. So, man, a lot of history there. So Tim, I'd love to, for the people listening who don't really get what a sports information director does at a major university, I just want to give a few stats here, and you know them, but I didn't really know these until Veronica sent them to me. That during your time, you and your staff publicized 47 national championship teams, 267 Olympians, 24 academic All-Americans, and in football, 84 All-Americans, 220 NFL draftees, and 5 Heisman Trophy winners. I mean, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, right? You yourself, right, has served as media coordinator for 17 championships hosted by USC, working more than 475 Trojan football games, including 30 bowl games that also includes 12 Rose Bowls. So when did you have time to sleep? I mean, how did you do that, man? And sort of have some kind of semblance of a personal life.
Well, first of all, I've been blessed to have an incredible group of people working with me. Not all that is because of me, obviously.
Sure, but
when it's, none of it's because of me. It's because of the coaches and student athletes. But
right.
We've also had some great people in the sports information office over the years at USC, both full-time people and student interns who I'm really proud of seeing their careers develop. And so we all kind of jump in there, and yeah, it is a it's not a 9 to 5 job. It really isn't, and that's what I tell people who want to get in the world of sports, especially in team sports, is there's some sacrifices involved. It's a lot of fun. It's a great, that you ride the ebb and flow of the team, the adrenaline rushes and all that sort of thing. But besides the 9 to 5 part of it, you're working, when your friends aren't working. You're working when are the games? They're on at night, they're on weekends, and they're on holidays, right? And so those are your work hours too. So you've got to have very understanding family and spouse and partners and all that sort of thing. And Andy,
Sure.
you do it.
Yeah, I get it. I still don't know how he did it, but I'm still doing it. But I get it. And being the guy at the top, everything kind of flows down from you, and you have to manage so much. You and I both know so many incredible professional sports public relations directors that we met over the years, but they're, God bless them, they're managing one team. You are juggling so many sports. I mean, in USC's case, the major sports of men's football, men's basketball, women's basketball, swimming. I mean, I'm going to leave a lot out. Volleyball, of course. And we know that the star players that have crossed your way, obviously speaks for themselves. But what about the guy like at the end of the bench? You're working for the university. It's kind of like, you called it part of their educational experience, right? To be a
Mhm,
student
mhm.
athlete. I mean, how were you able to, I guess, divvy up the time and the attention down, that trickled down through the program?
Well, you do what you have to do, and you don't really look at clocks and what time it is and what time you come in or what time you leave. That you work till you get it done, and that's just part of the work ethic that I think anybody who works in sports has or develops.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think there's a reward that you get whether your team wins or loses. To me, it's not. I've always said this. It's not about the championships and all those things you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the relationships and the people. And in our case, working with 21 different sports, with 500 and some, maybe 600 student athletes,
Mm-hmm.
watching the growth of them, and from maybe their freshman year to their senior year, and knowing that maybe you had this little iota of effect on that growth, maybe in the world of communication, and that's to me what I've always felt kind of fortunate for, is that the coaches and administrators that I've worked with have always understood the importance of that part of the student athlete experience in terms of letting them deal with the media, and helping them, because it is, as you said, it is part of the educational process. They come to college to learn life skills. And one of those life skills really is, how do you communicate? How do you speak?
Mm-hmm.
And, I use the example, I talk about a kid named Ray Mawaluga. If you remember, Ray was a great linebacker, All-American linebacker for us, had a great NFL career.
Yeah.
And Ricky Bell was similar as a tailback here way back in the 70s. But, Ray came, when he first came to SC, he was a very quiet, introverted, shy kid, had a hard time putting a couple sentences together in a public setting. And I remember the first time he did an interview after practice, a couple reporters came around him. It was his freshman year, and it was painful. He couldn't really express himself, and not really because of anything we did, but we would help him along and talk to him about it and give him some tips and what have you. And also because of his playing ability, he got thrust more and more having to do these sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember, by the time he was a senior, Ray ended up winning the Bednarik Award as the top defensive player in college football. Flew to Charlotte, North Carolina, for the banquet, and it was a black tie banquet with 1,000 people in there in the audience. And Ray stood up and spoke for 20 minutes without notes in front of this group. And this was the same kid that 4 years earlier couldn't put a couple sentences together. And to me, that is what it's all about, is to see the development of young people. Again, we're at a university. This is part of it. They come there, some kids come and they want to be in the Philharmonic, and so they join the band. And okay, they're going to mess up some notes in the band at SC, so that when they get to the LA Philharmonic, they're going to be on point. Same thing with maybe a kid who wants to be a scientist. They might mess up a little bit in the lab, but once they get to NASA or wherever, they're going to be on point. That's how we take it when a kid plays sports here.
Yeah.
Let's put them in front of the media. Okay, if they mess up, say the wrong thing, we'll work with them, we'll educate them, we'll train them, because when they get to the NFL or the NBA or the MLB, they got to do it right. You can't mess up there, right?
Yeah. No, that's so well said. And so many athletes that and I know, it would surprise people how shy they are. And they just are not used to. Maybe they had a lot of spotlight on them in high school or whatever, but they're not used to really knowing how to relate to the media, how to speak, how to get their point across, and you and your staff helping to shape that while they're, under your umbrella, is super valuable, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, anybody who came out of your program, any interns? I'm thinking of one in particular who's very famous. Could you tell us a little story about Will Ferrell, who was working with you as an intern, I guess?
Yeah. Well, the funny part of that story is, yes, Will did intern for our office,
Uh-huh.
but we were playing in the Rose Bowl. This was in the Pete Carroll era. We were playing in the Rose Bowl, and this was after Will had left SC and was Will Ferrell, right?
Uh-huh.
And Pete had met up with Will at I think at a Laker game, and
Mhm.
it invited him to come to practice, and they would pull some sort of a gag or whatever, and Will ended up coming out to practice. Um, he was dressed in uniform. Pete had said, "Hey, we have this new walk-on kid, do a tryout today or whatever," and comes out and starts messing around, and the team, the players figured it out pretty quick and had a great time with him. And we had media at our practice, so they're all watching this, and they're all,
Yeah.
they all want to go talk to him afterwards. So I kind of stood back and let him do his thing. And
Mm.
I'm thinking in my mind, well, when this is over, I'm going to go up and introduce myself to him and say, congratulations on your career. I know you came to SC, and
Mhm.
at the time there was this major call sports information, kind of more sports communications. You've done well for yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm going, he's not going to know me from Adam or what have you. And, practice is over, and he's in the middle of the field, and he looks over to me. I'm halfway across the field, and he yells, "Hey, Tim, how you doing?" And I'm going, how does he know me? Because I didn't remember him as an intern in our office.
That's
I'm
fun.
going, how does he remember me? And he had to tell me,
Yeah.
I interned for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, right. I had to kind of play it off a little bit. And so anyway,
He didn't quite make the impression when he's an intern.
well, knowing Will, if he's anything then like he is now, he's probably has some screw off that we probably kicked out of there or something. I don't know, but he's been great to USC and
Oh man,
such a great supporter. And
I know he comes to Laker games. I think every time I've seen him, he's wearing an SC something,
yeah,
sweatshirt,
yeah.
hat, something or other. Yeah.
Well, he means a lot to our university, to our office.
Sure.
Obviously, he's been very kind
Yeah.
and a really good guy, and we're really proud of the career he's had.
Oh, that's a great story. So Tim, so much has changed, obviously, in your world, my world. The digital revolution of the early 2000s for me changed everything. Went from film, analog, waiting to get film developed. The old, publishing in magazines and newspapers is kind of out, obsolete now. Everything is about now, right? It has to happen right this second. My pictures literally go from camera to an editor. I do an NBA game in New Jersey as I shoot, right? Um, I'm just wondering, in your profession, how did the digital revolution change everything with the advent, of course, of social media? And now, on top of that, we got the NILs, the athletes controlling their own narrative and, their name, image, and likeness. Man, that's just a lot of change in your world over the last, at least over the last 20 something years.
Well, it's changed dramatically from when I started. When you would have time to deal with a story because you knew you had maybe until that night
Yeah.
for the story to go to deadline, and
Right.
then the next morning when it would be on your porch and in the newspaper, right?
Yeah.
Now, as you said, everything is 24/7, 365, and it's instant. And so what has happened, at least in our world, is it's a lot harder to control the narrative, which is what you try to do in the world of PR, at least, is try to at least be in front of the story, because now you're always chasing. Something's always breaking, and you don't have the opportunity to, very rarely, you have the opportunity to be in front of the story. You're usually reacting instead of being proactive, right? And so that makes what we do a lot harder.
Yeah.
A great example is we hired, our new football coach, Lincoln Riley, that was a rare example of something not getting out early, leaking out or whatever. Now, it did start getting out a little bit before we pushed it out on that Sunday, if you remember. It got out kind of midday, and we didn't really officially announce it till late in the afternoon. But at least we were, the gap was pretty tight. Normally, something comes out and you're going, oh gosh, I got to go check this out now and see if it's true, and, react to it and come up with a statement, and, how are we going to do this, and pull this group of people together to try to figure out what's going on, and all that. And that's our world now, because, same with you, everybody's a journalist, everybody's a photographer, everybody's got a cell phone, right? And takes pictures and posts it, and puts something out there. So, and who's a legit journalist? I can send out a tweet right now that Andy Bernstein's wearing a green and pink shirt, and people are going to believe it for a long time, and you're going to have to tell somebody, no, I'm not wearing a green and pink shirt. It's it's a different color. And that's kind of what we do now is and have to deal with.
It's more reactive than proactive. I get that. Not only is everybody a photographer, but every athlete now has their team, their social media team. They got their brands. I mean, personally, it drives me nuts in my world. I mean, how does that, I guess with the advent of the NILs and stuff, did you have to deal with that? Is that now going on in major college sports where your top athletes have their social teams and you got to accommodate like their videographer and their photographer and all that stuff?
It's starting. It's starting to happen, believe it or not.
What a nightmare that's got to be. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but that's got to be a nightmare, because not only are you dealing with, and I don't want to use this word in derogatorily, but legitimate media, which in LA, which second biggest media capital in the country, is hard enough, right? Now you got to deal with that. It just seems like a lot piled on at the time.
For the first time in my career this past fall, we had a interview request for one of our players, football players, and he said, well, let me check first with my agent. He has a marketing agent, which is now permissible, right, with the NIL law or rules. And we had to kind of shake our head and go, this is okay. We've got it. But I suppose that's how life is, kind of on the level that you're at, Andy, with the Lakers and whatever, is players have their agents and whatever. So it is, yes, it is coming, and it's here at the college level. And, as change is always hard, but I get it. I understand. And, the NIL stuff, good for the athletes. They deserve a cut, right? They deserve something. And so hopefully everybody does it the right way. There's policies and regulations and whatever in place so that it doesn't get out of hand. And that, the kids get an opportunity to profit off of their name, image, and likeness, as they should. I get that. And we all get that. We're very supportive of that at USC.
But, on the college level, not pro level, because it's different. They're getting paid. It's different. But on the college level, I mean, you really have to think about, are these athletes, these elite top athletes, they're thinking more about themselves now than they're thinking about the program, that they're thinking about the USC emblem that they were in, the color, the university. It's just, to me, it's just changed things so much. I'm hoping it doesn't become like a selfish type of thing that athletes are picking schools because it might be better for their image, and they might get more followers or clicks or whatever it might be. It's just not cool.
Well, I know, as much as you say you hope that's not happening, but it doesn't happen. I think it is happening. And, I think schools are recruiting to that, that is part of the recruiting pitch. Now, USC and UCLA and LA, with Hollywood right down the street, we have some incredible advantages.
Yeah.
If you want to come here and market yourself, you're in the entertainment capital of the world. You're in the collegiate media capital of the country. You're at one of the premier athletic programs
Mhm.
ever. All those things that you're dreaming of in terms of promoting yourself and your brand are here for you. And now
Yeah.
every school has its own pitch. Um,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, Teams in the South have a different pitch and teams in the East have a different, so you recruit to what you have.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Well, I love how optimistic you're sounding because I also know that it's got to be sort of a head scratching nightmare too sometimes when things are not the way they used to be. I mean, it's that way in my world too. I have to constantly be bringing myself back. Like to get to a player used to be I talked to the player, or I talked to the PR guy or the assistant PR guy. Now you got to go through 19 different channels just to get
No, I know.
something. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, just an old guy just kind of spouting
No,
out.
I hear you. And Andy, I mean, it's what made you what you are,
Mm,
those relationships and all that.
true.
But, to me, on the other side of it is we adjust.
Yeah, it's progress. Yeah,
You've adjusted
yeah,
to, how you shoot games.
absolutely.
We've
100%.
all adjusted
Yeah,
and we'll adjust. Everybody will.
yeah. So Tim, Kobe and Vanessa's daughter, Natalia, decided to go to SC. She's a Trojan. She's a very proud Trojan. I follow her religiously. Have you had any dealings with her at all or with the family? Did you have any Kobe stories at all to share?
Um, you know, I I haven't really dealt with her. I know everybody at SC is incredibly proud that she's there, and
Hmm.
the experience is going to be a great experience for her, like it is for so many kids.
Right.
Um, I think the Kobe experiences for us is when he would come to some of our women's games
Hmm.
with the girls and sit there
Yeah.
and it was it's a big deal, and it
Yeah.
was a big deal for our student athletes and for our fans and
Yeah.
what have you. And I'll say this, and this is me with my cardinal gold stuff on here, but uh, it's USC is a very powerful place, and it can do great things for you because of the connections and because of the Trojan family. And
Hmm.
I'm hopeful that the Bryants will experience that. I'm sure they will,
Hmm.
and you know, uh, it'll work wonders for them. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, you talk about the Trojan family. Now, you truly are a Trojan family. I mean, you and your wife Trudy, both SC grads. Your three kids, SC grads. Your grandson probably's got SC written all over him, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's an amazing legacy right there, man. That's great.
Yeah, we've been blessed to have everybody be able to go to SC. My oldest son's name is Troy,
Yeah, yeah.
and so
I'm sure that
uh,
wasn't coincidence. Yeah, I
that
guess.
was in my contract, right? But
That's great. Yeah,
it's where I met my wife, and
yeah,
it's meant a lot to all of us. And
yeah.
again, getting back to what we were talking about with the Bryants,
Mhm.
all three of my kids got their starts in their careers because of connections they made at
Mhm.
USC. And I always tell people, I say, if you want to go to school at USC and
Mhm.
you come and you go to class every day and you get straight A's, and
Mhm.
that's all you do, you failed,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so much more than just going to class.
Mhm.
It's all the connections that you meet, the internships you take, the seminars you go to, to push yourself outside of the box a little bit and get uncomfortable. Meet a kid from another country. Go to a classical music concert. Go to a speech by somebody that doesn't look like you.
Mhm.
And make those kind of connections. That's what's going to get you where you are, where you want to get to in life. And that's what a school like USC does for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my wife did her post grad at USC. My stepdaughter is at USC Keck,
Yeah.
her PhD right now. My brother, I don't know if you even know this, but my brother was recruited by USC to come to the music school and actually started singing at the LA Opera while he was at USC, and
Wow.
yeah, they gave him a beautiful award, USC
Wow.
recently. So, we're kind of a Trojan family too, so that's a good thing, man.
Yeah,
Um,
good.
so Tim, lastly, you're in retirement, right? I know that you absolutely love beach volleyball, that you would always carve out Sunday mornings to play beach volleyball as kind of your escape, but also, just your habit, what you love to do. So you now able to play some beach volleyball on days other than Sundays? Or you just
Yeah, that's Andy. That's the plan. Is in fact, I've got this group of old guys that we play with, and I'm the
okay,
oldest of them. But a couple
yeah,
others are retired, so we're going to try to start maybe on Wednesdays
yeah,
and Fridays and Sundays. But I tell you a quick story is
yeah,
something that I have never been able to do is like go on a bike ride on a Wednesday at morning.
yeah.
And I did that last week, and I went down. I live in Redondo and went down to Hermosa. And
Mm.
every volleyball court in Hermosa Beach on a Wednesday morning on the first week of January was full with people. And I was just going, this is incredible. I've been missing this all my life. I can, go do all this kind of stuff. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
not, I'm just an old hacker of getting out there and running around. But
yeah, but
yeah,
have fun. That's great. I mean, it's opened up a whole new world. And then are we going to see you like at SC games, like up there with
oh
your
yeah.
family? Why, how weird is that going to be that you're actually like
Well,
watching a game and you don't have to worry about working it? Yeah.
yeah, that will be a little different, but I
Mhm.
did ask them to save me the last seat in the press box, the football, the Coliseum press box, the one
Yeah.
way down at the far end of the press box, and they actually did. They put my name on it on the seat there, so I will always be around and out of the way, but
Mhm.
watching and cheering. Well, can't cheer in the press box
Yeah.
obviously, but
Right.
internally
Sure, sure.
cheering on the
Well, now
Trojans.
you can officially cheer in the press box because nobody's they can't fire you, so it's all good. But Tim, I got to tell you, man, it's so great connecting with you, and I have so much gratitude for helping me as a young pain in the ass photographer, because I know I was from time to time, and my good friend, your good friend John Suhu, giving him a start. John is still so connected to the program and
Yeah,
bleeds, SC. I guess what is it? Crimson, I guess, right?
Cardinal and gold,
Sorry,
Cardinal and gold. Yeah.
Crimson. I'm thinking of Harvard. But I talked to John, and he knew I was going to speak to you. He said to send his love and gratitude, and I wish you all the best, man. I hope I can see you at a Laker Clipper game.
Yeah.
Sometime over there. You have an extra night free or something once in a while, and enjoyed it with your family. And you've meant so much to our business and to the city of LA, of course, to your university. And I just wish you all the best, man.
Well, and it's very kind of you to say all that. And, it's fun because I get my kicks watching all of the people I know work. It was funny that when you asked me to do this, my first thought is watching Laker games and looking baseline for you. I don't watch the action.
Right.
I look for you,
Oh
you
boy.
know,
Yeah.
and that's it. And it's similar for other things, and
Yeah.
it's like all the photographers I know, or the TV announcers, or
Sure.
whoever it is. It's
Yeah.
just, there's a camaraderie, and whatever everybody's obviously competitive and wants to do the right thing and get the right story or photo. But
Yeah.
I think we're all in it together, and that's been my whole goal, is to try to make life as easy as possible for all you guys,
Mhm.
whatever your job is, when they cover the Trojans, and
Well,
hopefully we've been able to do that. So.
oh, 1,000,000%. I mean, I'm just thinking right now about all the games early in my career that I covered and how special it was for me to be, on the field at the Coliseum for a USC game, or photographing. I used to photograph a lot of the women's sports
Yeah.
and how fun that was, and making friendships with people like Lisa Leslie or Cheryl Miller, and having that continue to this day. And that's because of you getting me a credential. So all I can say is thanks, and thanks for your time today. I appreciate it. And you are true legends of sport, my friend. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, and fight on.
Thanks, Tim. Well, it was so much fun chatting with the legendary Tim Tessalone on today's episode. I am so grateful to Tim for taking the time to chat with me so we could bring this episode to all of you. Tim is one of those people in sports that fly under the radar. Not too many people on the outside may know his name or even what he and his office do as a vital part of a major university's athletic program. But Tim is definitely someone we all on the inside know and have depended on for years. Tim ran an incredibly organized operation and is truly recognized as one of the icons in his field. So thanks again to Tim for making the time to tell us his story today. All of us at Legends of Sport wish Tim a very, very happy retirement. Thanks as always to my producer and head researcher, Veronica Ahn. Remember that you can find all our episodes on the iHeart app and website, as well as on your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. Please keep following us on Instagram at Legends of Sport, our Twitter at Legends_of Sport, our website, legendsofsport.net, and our TikTok and YouTube channels, Legends of Sport. You can find my photography on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. See you all next time with another great episode. Until then, stay safe and stay well.